I'm Detective James, and this is the cases the news forgot.
At 11:47 p.m., a town called Emergency Services. At 11:47 p.m., it called again. And again. Over the course of 12 months, more than 300 emergency calls were logged from the same town. Fires, medical emergencies, domestic disputes, accidents. Every single call happened at the exact same minute. 11:47 p.m. Different days, different months, same night. That alone should have been impossible. What made it worse was this. The storm reported in those calls never ended. Weather satellites showed heavy snowfall over the town, continuous, unbroken, for an entire year. But every surrounding region had long since thawed. Roads reopened. Seasons changed. Only this place remained locked in a single winter night. No sunrise, no dawn reports, no morning temperatures, just darkness. Snow, and 11:47 p.m. When the automated system finally flagged the anomaly, it wasn't because of the storm. It was because time itself had stopped updating. The timestamp on the town's weather station hadn't moved in 11 months. Not frozen by a glitch. Repeated, as if the same minute was being written over itself again and again. By the time we were sent in, no one was officially missing. The town still existed on maps. Census data showed a stable population. Power usage updated monthly, as if people were living normal lives. But no one had left. No confirmed departures, no incoming visitors, no vehicles recorded exiting the town limits. A full year lived inside a single night. The road inn disappeared under drifting snow 5 miles out. We continued on foot, radios crackling, headlights cutting weak tunnels through the white. The first thing we saw wasn't houses, it was snowplows. Stopped mid-road, engines off, blades raised, headlights still on, not abandoned, paused. The snow piled around them was deep, but the tire tracks beneath were sharp, untouched by time, like they'd stopped moments ago. Our watches worked, seconds passed, minutes passed, but the longer we stood there, the harder it became to remember when we'd arrived. That was the first warning. At the town limit sign, the radio came alive. Not static, a voice, calm, exhausted. "If you can hear this," it said, "you're inside the night now." Streetlights glowed amber through thick snowfall. Windows were lit. Curtains half drawn. Footprints crossed streets in lupin patterns that never seemed to reach a destination. We knocked on the first door we saw. A woman opened it immediately. Relief washed over her face. "Oh, thank God," she said. "You're back." "Back from where?" She hesitated, then smiled, like the question didn't matter. "Come in," she said. "It's almost midnight." Inside, every clock read 11:46. Wall clock, microwave display, wristwatch on the counter, all synchronized, all counting down the same final minute. We asked how long the storm had been going. She looked genuinely confused. "Since tonight," she said. "It's always tonight." Her husband sat at the table, pen hovering over a half-written note. The tip never touched the paper. Their child slept on the couch, breathing evenly, unchanged, untouched by time. Outside, a car horn sounded briefly, then cut off. A door slammed somewhere down the street. No smoke rose from chimneys, no exhaust from cars. Heat without combustion, movement without progress. At 11:47 p.m., the radio crackled again. A different voice this time, panicked. "There's someone knocking," it said. "They're saying they're from tomorrow." The transmission cut out. The minute hand clicked forward and snapped back, 11:47. That's when we understood. The town wasn't frozen in time. It was trapped in the exact moment before something happened, and whatever that moment was, the storm was keeping it from arriving. The first thing we learned was that the town did not experience time the same way we did. The clocks reset, the night repeated, but the people didn't. Not completely. We noticed it in small ways at first. A woman sweeping snow from her porch paused mid-motion, confused about why the broom felt heavier than it should. Her hands were rougher than expected, skin cracked with age that didn't match her face. A man at the diner complained about his knees, said they hadn't hurt yesterday, then corrected himself. I mean, earlier tonight. The waitress serving coffee wore a name tag that had been rewritten so many times, the letters were almost gone. When asked how long she'd worked there, she laughed nervously. Since before the storm, she said. I think. The coffee was always hot, fresh, untouched by repetition. But the conversations weren't. People repeated stories, but not perfectly. Each cycle introduced small changes, extra details, slight emotional shifts, like memory trying to move forward while time refused. We interviewed the town's doctor. He was the only one who seemed to fully understand what was happening. Not because he'd figured it out, but because he'd been forced to observe it. He kept handwritten notes, hundreds of them, stuffed into folders labeled by what he believed were days. His handwriting told a different story. The early notes were neat, confident. The later ones shook. He told us injuries healed, but never completely reset. Cuts closed, bruises faded, but scars accumulated. So you age, I said. Yes, he replied, but selectively. Children stayed children. Teenagers stayed teenagers. Adults changed, slowly. Like time was leaking through cracks it couldn't fully seal. We asked if anyone remembered the moment the storm began. That's when the room went quiet. People could recall everything leading up to that night. Arguments, plans, things left unfinished. But the exact moment the storm started, no one could describe it. Just a sense of interruption, as if the night had stepped in front of something moving too fast. A man named Ellis finally spoke. I think something was supposed to happen, he said. Something bad enough that the night didn't let it through. Ellis was different. He had been there longer than most. Not because he remembered more, but because he remembered wrong. He believed it was the 3rd month of the storm. The calendars said otherwise. His face showed age. His hands shook. I tried to leave, he said quietly. That got everyone's attention. Leaving wasn't forbidden. The roads were there. The storm didn't physically block them. People just didn't try. Ellis did. He said the moment he crossed the town limits, the storm stopped. The sky cleared. Stars appeared. Then the road vanished. Not disappeared. Replaced. He was driving through a version of the town that hadn't been built yet. No houses, no lights, no footprints, just outlines, like a blueprint rendered in snow. And then he was back. Not turned around, returned, standing in the street, snow falling again, his watch reading 11:47. But something else had come back with him. Time, not the full thing, just enough. Ellis aged weeks in a single cycle. His hair thinned, his memory blurred. The doctor confirmed it. He brought tomorrow with him, the doctor said, and it doesn't belong here. That's when we discovered the rule. Time inside the storm resets. Time that enters from outside does not. Anything that tries to move forward too far breaks. We tested it. A digital recorder was left running overnight. In the morning, if you could call it that, the recording contained hours of audio. But the timestamp never moved. The battery drained. The data remained. A human couldn't do that. We interviewed a teacher who had started writing lesson plans on the same page every cycle. The paper was thick now, pressed, layers of ink building on top of itself. "You can feel how many nights it's been," she said, touching the page, "even if you can't count them." That's when someone screamed. Down the street. A child. We ran. A boy stood in the snow, pointing at his father. His father was older, not by years, by moments. The man's face sagged, breath labored, eyes confused. He kept asking what time it was. The boy was crying. "He woke up wrong," he said. "He woke up from later." The doctor examined him. The verdict was quiet. "He slept too deeply," he said. "He crossed the line." Sleep, we realized, was dangerous. When the body rested too fully, it tried to move forward. Some people began staying awake, others didn't. Those who slept through the cycle aged. Those who didn't forgot. The storm wasn't just holding the town in place, it was rationing time, 1 minute at a time, and it was running out. The first person to reach 11:48 didn't celebrate it. He didn't even notice it. His name was Aaron. He worked night security at the school before the storm. Quiet, reliable, the kind of person everyone remembers only after they're gone. Aaron stopped sleeping after Ellis aged in front of everyone. He said sleep felt dangerous, like stepping off a ledge you couldn't see the bottom of. Instead, he stayed awake. Coffee, walking, counting breaths, anything to stay conscious through the reset. At first, it worked. Every cycle ended the same way. The clocks clicked forward, hesitated, snapped back to 11:47. Snow fell fresh again. Conversations restarted slightly wrong, but Aaron stayed the same. While others accumulated scars or confusion, he didn't change. Then, on what the doctor estimated was the 209th repetition, Aaron missed a moment. Not sleep, just rest. He sat down in the school hallway, back against the lockers, eyes open. His breathing slowed. His thoughts drifted. When we found him, he was standing alone in the parking lot, staring at the sky. It wasn't snowing. The clouds above the school had thinned into something gray and stretched, like fabric pulled too tight. Streetlights flickered. Aaron looked older. Not drastically, just off. He checked his watch. "It moved," he said. We all looked. The second hand was ticking. The minute hand had passed the mark, 11:48. The town didn't reset, not immediately. Instead, the storm reacted. The wind picked up, not outward but inward. Snow lifted from rooftops and streets, spiraling toward the center of town. The sound wasn't like a blizzard. It was like pressure being released. People ran outside, drawn by instinct rather than choice. The sky darkened, not with clouds, but with something denser. Aaron dropped to his knees. He was crying, but not in pain, in recognition. "I remember now," he said. "This is when it was supposed to happen." We pulled him back inside the school. The clocks didn't reset. They froze. 11:48. Every display locked in place. And that's when memories started returning. Not gently, violently. People screamed as images flooded back, arguments that never finished, roads they were supposed to take, words they were supposed to say. A woman collapsed in the street, shouting about a phone call she never made. A man punched a wall, sobbing, because he remembered leaving his daughter alone. The storm wasn't hiding the future. It was blocking a collision. Ellis grabbed my arm. "I remember the headline," he said. "I remember reading it." "Reading what?" "The accident," he said. "The pileup." The town sat at the junction of two highways, normally quiet. That night, a rerouted convoy of fuel trucks was supposed to pass through due to an earlier closure. Ice on the road. Poor visibility. One mistake. Ellis said the crash would have killed dozens, but that wasn't the worst part. "The fire spread," he whispered. "The school, the houses, everything." The storm had arrived before the crash, not after. As if something had intervened. The storm wasn't trapping the town. It was postponing the moment it was destroyed. Aaron remembered everything now. He remembered watching headlights slide across ice. He remembered the sound. He remembered dying. "We didn't survive," he said quietly. "We were interrupted. That's why no one could leave. That's why time rationed itself. That's why the storm held the night together with repetition instead of progression. The town existed in a pocket of unfinished consequence, a version of reality where the worst moment hadn't been allowed to arrive. But now, someone had crossed the line. 11:48 wasn't just the next minute. It was the moment after intervention. The storm intensified. Snow slammed against windows hard enough to crack glass. Buildings groaned like they were being squeezed. The doctor checked Aaron again. His vitals were unstable, not failing, but diverging. "He's aging forward," the doctor said, all at once. Aaron grabbed my hand. "Tell them not to fight it," he said. "If the night lets go, it's going to do it all at once." Outside, the sound of engines echoed through the storm. Not real engines, memories of them. Headlights appeared at the edge of town, faint, distorted, like reflections on ice. People screamed as shapes moved where roads should have been. The past was trying to reconnect. The storm had one function left: containment. We realized something then. The storm wasn't failing. It was running out of power. The longer it held the town, the more time leaked through cracks. Aging, memory, decay. A year had been bought, at a cost, and now the debt was due. Aaron collapsed. The clocks shattered. Glass sprayed across rooms as every display went dark. For the first time in 12 months, the town lost track of time completely. That's when the storm began to lift. Not upward, backward. The snow stopped falling, the wind died, and far in the distance, a faint orange line appeared in the horizon. Sunrise. But it was wrong. The light wasn't warm. It wasn't gradual. It looked like something forcing its way in. Ellis stared at it, trembling. "That's not morning," he said. "That's aftermath." The light didn't arrive like morning. It pressed in. The horizon brightened without color, without warmth, like a photograph being overexposed. Shadows didn't stretch. They vanished. Snow didn't melt. It dulled, collapsing inward on itself as if embarrassed to still exist. The storm wasn't ending. It was being dismissed. People stood frozen in the streets, unsure whether to move, unsure whether moving mattered anymore. After a year of repetition, the idea of a next moment felt dangerous. Aaron was gone, not dead, absent. The place where he'd fallen was dry, no snow, no blood, no footprints, as if he'd been removed from the night rather than carried forward with it. The doctor said nothing. He didn't need to. We all understood. Aaron had crossed into the moment the storm was holding back, and the storm had chosen not to follow. The clocks didn't restart. They stayed broken. Time, when it returned, did so unevenly. Some people felt it immediately. They flinched, clutched their chests, gasped as if oxygen had suddenly become heavier. Others didn't notice until they spoke and heard their own voices sound unfamiliar. Older, thicker, like voices that had finally caught up to the body using them. The first engine we heard wasn't memory. It was real. A snowplow from outside the town crested the hill, orange lights spinning, blade lowered. The driver slowed when he saw us standing there, confused, relieved, terrified. He rolled down the window. "Road's clear," he said. "Storm broke hours ago." Hours. Not months, not a year. Hours. When we asked him what day it was, he answered without hesitation. The day the storm started. The day the accident was supposed to happen. That's when we realized the storm hadn't held the town in a loop. It had slid the town sideways. A year existed here. Nowhere else. The highway was reopened cautiously. Traffic was diverted slowly. Authorities followed protocol, inspections, safety checks, controlled movement. But the moment the first truck passed through the junction, the sky darkened again. Not with snow, with smoke. Somewhere beyond the town limits, metal screamed. The sound didn't arrive late. It arrived on time. The collision unfolded exactly as Ellis remembered. Tankers skidding, vehicles folding into each other. Fire blooming across ice like spilled gasoline catching breath. Except this time, the town wasn't in its path. The reroute shifted just enough. The fire burned where no one lived. The accident still happened. But the town survived. That was the condition. The storm hadn't erased the disaster. It had negotiated it. Once the future was safe enough to exist, the night let go. People expected relief. Instead, what came was grief. Not for what had happened, for what hadn't. Memories surfaced fully now. Not just the accident, but the year lived inside the pause. Conversations repeated 100 times. Words never said, because there was always another cycle. Forgiveness postponed, confessions delayed. Some people remembered growing old, others remembered staying young. No one remembered everything the same way. Families argued over events that both did and didn't occur. Birthdays that were celebrated 12 times but officially never happened. Deaths mourned in advance. A woman collapsed when she realized her mother had died during the storm. Not physically, but quietly. Night after night. Forgetting a little more each cycle until there was nothing left to forget. The body had been preserved. The person hadn't. The town aged unevenly. Adults carried exhaustion in their bones that no rest could fix. Children remembered almost nothing, as if the storm had spared them by omission. Records were impossible to reconcile. Medical scans showed cellular aging inconsistent with birth dates. Wear on buildings didn't match their appearance. Food inventories didn't align with consumption. The town was offset, like something restored from backup after too many edits. We interviewed Ellis one last time before leaving. He stood at the edge of the road, watching traffic move normally again. "I don't think it was meant to save us," he said. "I think it was meant to buy time." Time for what? He shook his head. For us to become the kind of people who could survive what was coming. Before we left, we checked the weather station. The anomaly was gone. Data flowed normally. No repeated timestamps, No contradictions, just one note appended to the archive. Unattributed. Containment window closed. Event resolved within acceptable loss parameters. No explanation. No signature. The town still exists. You can drive through it today. It looks ordinary. Too ordinary. People there avoid talking about winters, avoid clocks, avoid phrases like "that night." They celebrate sunrise more than holidays. Every year, on the anniversary of the storm, the power goes out for exactly 1 minute at 11:47 p.m. No one knows why. No one stays asleep through it. Because some of them still remember what happens when the night decides to hold on. And some storms don't come from the sky. They arrive early to stop something worse from arriving at all.